Greetings, guys. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Monette, and this is my channel, Evolve with Monette. What I want to do today here, for those of you that are new, I'm a professional intuitive empath, and what I want to do is clarify the micro and macro aggressions. I've just put up a video regarding various topics of racism that affect us while we are in the workplace, and they're usually referred to micro and macro aggressions. I gave 3 different examples of how that it plays itself out, though some of them were just more outright racist. But I wanted to talk to you about this real quick. First thing on my mind this morning, so I wanted to get up and clarify that. So when you're dealing with a macro aggression and or a microaggression, both of them are the main forms of racial or discriminatory insults that are either targeting a specific race, a gender, a disability, economic status, or overall difference of an individual. More specifically, there are also differences between the two terms and how they're used. So I was looking up at learnliberty.org, and it defines microaggression as a real or perceived everyday verbal, nonverbal, and environmental slight, snub, insult that communicates negative or hostile messages to marginalized or perceived marginalized people, and it should be countered with and they perceive that this should be countered with violence. Not that we should counter it, but that the person's projecting the microaggressions do. So guys, typically what's happening here with a microaggression is it only applies to the individual of that particular race or circumstances. So one example used in previous microaggressions is like, maybe that I've experienced personally, you're so pretty for a black girl, or you're so smart for a black girl, or you're articulate. That word is a huge trigger. Not that it's bad to be articulate, but it is to imply that black people are not educated or well spoken. And that's something you hear, and something, if you go back to when Obama was running, there was a lot of like, he is so well spoken. Well, he's a Harvard graduate. He's quite professorial, and he's a fantastic orator. Beyond that, Martin Luther King was not a Harvard graduate, but he was a fantastic orator. He was well spoken, but it is to imply, because of a lot of the history of our country, that literacy, which was discouraged in slavery, never trickled down. We didn't evolve past that. Now, that's something that I've personally had. I've had a lot of people say, you're not like the other black people. That is a microaggression. They don't realize it. That's why I'm educating about it, and it needs to be talked about. So, some other people have had instances where people say limited representation in the classroom and a voice for all, being a voice for all black people. And there is a person who was going to a school, and she was saying that just because she chose to go to a predominantly white institution with a limited amount of black representation doesn't mean that her voice wasn't strong enough to have her own opinion. But on the opposite end, a macroaggression is defined as an act of racism towards everyone of that race. So we want to flash back to the presidential election, and I talked about this in my video, Donald Trump was America's karmic. But in that presidential election, I don't know if it was in that one or another one, but in the presidential election, he was among the myriad of people who kind of just really used main topics, including race, gender, sexual orientation, and immigration. So what he did was not only kind of whip people up, but it also made people around him feel uncomfortable. And what better way of doing that, making sure that everybody was focusing on the danger. What's the danger? Stereotyping all African Americans as coming from impoverished communities. Remember what he said? Shithole communities with little to no educational background, which parrots back to that articulate comment. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a form of a macro, because this was outright outlandish, right? Macro big, micro small. Another example is whenever he stereotyped all Mexicans as being illegal drug smuggling rapists who only come to America to do more harm than good. He failed to recognize that a lot of people who work for him are of Mexican and Latino descent. Macroaggression. Aggression. See, there's the word there. That word, aggression, means that something is being perpetrated, and even if you don't understand it, and even if you don't think so, if you want to see a masterclass taught on micro and macroaggressions, I highly recommend you watch Get Out by Jordan Peele. The whole premise of the movie was based off of him and his comedic team going over, even though it was a horror movie, the idea of all of the microaggressions that black people have every time. If you want to see it, Daniel Kaluuya, who plays the black actor in Get Out, or the main character in Get Out, is like navigating white spaces and parties and things like that in this movie, and people are coming up and doing microaggressions to him all the time. Now what's funny is you think, oh, that's exaggerated, it's a movie, but anybody of any multi-race or any disability or any various ethnicity can tell you this happens all the time. People don't realize it. From touching hair, that's why Solange made the song you can't don't touch my hair, from touching hair, which I've had that happen, to people just saying wild stuff. Now we just kind of internalize it because we are just coming into, and it's crazy, 2021, and an emotional power of sorts of being like, no, this is not okay. In the last 10 years, we've seen us stand up more and more for ourselves. We have to think that the civil rights movement just happened 50, 60 years ago with Martin Luther King, yeah? So it's like, this is new still, us really being able to have a voice. And so when people are like, oh my God, it's overreacting, what, can I not say anything? Can I not do anything? No, you have your things, meaning whomever you are that's listening, that triggers you, right? Or that may be offensive to you, no matter what color or race you are. The reason we're teaching about micro and macroaggressions is because this is stuff that's been allowed to go on because it's just filtered into our permaculture, and it's just been part of who we are. We are a racist country. It is our great original sin, yeah? So it's not to say that other countries aren't racist. Of course they are, but I'm in America, and as Donald Glover said, this is America, and in America, it is a land filled with micro and macroaggressions. Educate yourself so that you can understand how not to, it's not that you have to go around on pins and needles to not be offensive, but when you do figure out that maybe you have done something, do not be Sharon Osbourne. Listen with open ears and actually take in like, hey, this is kind of racisty, and or if it's not racist, it's a micro or macroaggression. This happens a lot in corporate America too. I definitely noticed it when I was in corporate America. The way that you are treated, the way that it's different, the things people say to you, it was beyond macroaggressions. It was just outright racist, and it is what it is. Do I think that everybody is like this? Absolutely not. Have I lived all over the South? I absolutely have. Have I been around people that were actually deeply KKK racists? Certainly have. Have they wanted to deal or tolerate with me? Not really. Have some people that were racist come up to me and say, you changed my mind? Even with the macroaggression of, or microaggression of like, you're not like the others. But still, I understood my ministry, for whatever reason, has to do with dispelling areas of racism and being put into places where I'm the only dark face. And there's a lot of bright white light around me. And what I mean by bright white light is that the universe, the angels, protected me. I've been in places that I shouldn't have come out of. I've been in situations, y'all, God is good. But in a sea of white faces, I've often been the black one. My angels and ancestors trained me from the beginning of my life, from the where I grew up to the school that I went to that was predominantly white. I have been immersed in this and having to navigate my way through these spaces. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. It is not that you have to be perfect. None of us get it right. I have said things offensive. I called somebody a ginger, not knowing that that could be seen as derogatory to redheads. Do you see? None of us are perfect. And when it was a coworker, and I love redheads. That's the thing. I actually happen to adore redheads, but I said to her, wait, I said it, and then I saw her. She didn't really say anything back. She just kind of laughed with me. I said, oh, wait a minute. Is that even okay? Is that even okay for me to say? And she was like, well, it can be seen as like derogatory, but I don't mind at all. That was me checking in. Even if she didn't mind at all, guess what I never will do to any redhead ever again is say the word ginger. Just because we had a connection or a professional relationship and we were, kind of civil and kind to each other doesn't mean that I'm going to go around and spray around that energy or that word to everybody else. I studied to show myself approve. I asked a person who was actually a redhead how she felt about that and realized that maybe I could have hurt her feelings, even though she was really cool about it. But she's like, yeah, not everybody loves it, but girl, I'm super cool with it. She said she like had named her MySpace, guys, I'm dating myself, profile ginger something or other. So my point is that we all don't respond to the same triggers, right? Some black people don't mind if you ask about their hair or inquire or whatever. Some black people don't mind if you have a conversation with them that someone else might think might be overstepping a boundary. But I want you to just center yourself and ask yourself, is this okay? Like I did. Even though she didn't have a reaction as an empath and an intuitive, I don't know why my spirit caught me and I had to say, oh, I'm sorry. Is that even cool to say? That's all we want anybody to do, of any race, of any disability, of any ethnicity, is just kind of check in with someone and ask a question kindly and politely. And guess what? I bet you 98% of the time you're going to get a real response that's not angry. There won't be any upset. People understand that you might not know yet, and they'll be happy to tell you. So that's why diversity matters, and that's why it's good to understand about macro and microaggressions. We do them all the time with everybody, again, not just regarding matters of race. You may be experiencing, if you're of a different race, micro or macroaggressions within a relationship dynamic. It can happen in any way. But the thing that I want you guys to understand is that it's okay for you to say what you need to say, or ask the questions that you need to ask, or stand up for yourself, or to understand that this may be something you have participated in, and if it's not, it may be something you have observed, okay? Just wanted to do a quick little message about that. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me. Come back and join me next time, and we will continue to evolve together.